On December 5th, 1872, time stopped in the middle of the Atlantic. The sea was calm, the air was bright, and yet something, somewhere, had gone terribly still. A merchant ship named Mary Celeste drifted silently beneath a pale winter sun. Her sails hung loose, her compass steady, her wheel turning on its own. There was no smoke from the galley, no voices on deck, no captain shouting orders, only the whisper of ropes brushing against the mast. When sailors from a passing vessel spotted her, they thought she was asleep, a ship lost in thought. But when they boarded her, they realized they hadn't found a ship in trouble. They'd found a ship that had been left behind by time itself. Plates still sat on the table. A half-written logbook lay open on the desk, and a child's doll rested on a small bed beside an open Bible. Everything was in its place, except the people. No blood, no struggle, no farewell written in haste. Only silence, the kind that feels heavier than sound. That day, the ocean gave up a ship, but kept her story. And more than a century later, no one knows why the crew of the Mary Celeste vanished without a trace.
But to understand what the sailors found that cold December day, we have to go back 4 weeks earlier. It was November 7th, 1872, when the Mary Celeste left New York Harbor. Her destination, Genoa, Italy. A proud brigantine, 282 tons of timber and iron, built for endurance and grace. On board, over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, a dangerous but valuable cargo bound for Europe's factories. At her helm stood Captain Benjamin Briggs, a man of calm eyes and quiet faith. Respected, disciplined, the kind of sailor other captains trusted with their lives. He wasn't alone on this voyage. His wife, Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, and a crew of 7 seasoned men joined him on deck that morning. Witnesses in the harbor remembered the moment she departed. A soft breeze, clear skies, the sails bright with morning light. The ship cut through the water like a promise. No storm clouds gathered, no omens in sight. To anyone watching, it was just another crossing, the beginning of a safe, ordinary voyage across the Atlantic. But history would remember it as the last time anyone ever saw them alive. Nearly a month later, on December 5th, 1872, another ship, the Dei Gratia, was making its own way to Europe. Captain David Morehouse, a close friend of Briggs, stood on deck as his lookout spotted a vessel far off the starboard bow. It was drifting, sails half raised, moving without direction. Morehouse took his spyglass, adjusted the focus, and read a name painted on the stern, Mary Celeste. He froze. He knew Briggs personally. They'd dined together just before departure. Now his friend's ship was wandering aimlessly across the sea. When the Dei Gratia approached, there was no response to signals. No one appeared on deck. The sea was calm, the wind gentle, and yet the Mary Celeste moved like something alive but soulless. A small boarding party rowed across. The men climbed over the side and stepped into stillness. Inside, time had stopped. The galley stove was cold, but plates were laid on the table as if lunch had just been served. A sewing machine stood mid-stitch. The captain's cabin was neat, his wife's clothes folded, and a child's toy rested on a small bed beside an open Bible. There were no signs of struggle, no smashed glass, no blood, no footprints leading anywhere. The ship's logbook lay open on the desk. The last entry read, November 25th, 6 miles north of Santa Maria, 10 days earlier. Since that line, nothing. Her lifeboat was missing. So were a few navigational tools, but her cargo was untouched. The alcohol barrels below deck remained sealed. The ship itself was seaworthy, her hull dry, her sails intact, her provisions untouched for 6 months of travel. The Mary Celeste wasn't wrecked. She had been abandoned. But why? No storm, no illness, no mutiny, just a perfect ship without a crew.
Captain Morehouse ordered the ghost ship to be towed back to Gibraltar. But as his men steered her through the open water, they began to whisper. It felt wrong to touch her. Some said they heard footsteps on the deck at night. Others swore they saw a shadow pass through the captain's quarters. By the time she reached port, the Mary Celeste was no longer just a vessel. She was a curse. Before we go deeper, if you love unraveling mysteries that history tried to forget, subscribe to Forgotten Shadows. Because some stories aren't lost. They're just waiting for you to find them. The ship arrived at Gibraltar, where an official inquiry began under the British Admiralty. The crew of the Dei Gratia were accused of foul play. After all, salvaging an abandoned ship was worth a fortune. But the investigators found no evidence of violence. Still, the mystery deepened. The ship's bilge held only 3 feet of water, normal for a voyage of that length. The sails were damaged but serviceable. Every barrel of cargo was intact. There was no logical reason to abandon her. Yet every maritime law demanded a cause, so the world began to invent them. Some believed that fumes from the alcohol cargo built up in the hold, causing the crew to panic and evacuate. Perhaps Captain Briggs feared the ship would explode. They may have lowered the lifeboat, tethered it behind, and waited for the fumes to clear. But if that rope snapped, they'd drift into the endless sea, powerless to return. The theory fits, except for one thing. None of the barrels had leaked, and there was no trace of a blast. A violent underwater tremor could have shaken the Mary Celeste suddenly, throwing her off balance. Believing she was sinking, the captain might have ordered everyone off. But no other vessel in the region felt any disturbance. No waves. No change in weather. A tempting explanation, but impossible. The captain's strong reputation, the loyal crew, and the lack of missing valuables made this scenario unlikely. Even the family's personal belongings were undisturbed.
Weeks at sea test even the strongest minds. Some historians suggest that Captain Briggs, known for his intense piety and perfectionism, might have experienced a sudden moment of fear. Perhaps misreading the barometer, thinking the ship was doomed. In a desperate act of caution, he ordered everyone to evacuate. But it's only a theory. No trace of the lifeboat or crew was ever found. After the inquiry, the Mary Celeste was returned to service, but sailors refused to work on her. They said the ship was haunted, that the ocean had marked her. Years later, she was sold and resold, changing captains, changing flags. Each voyage ended in disaster, fire, grounding, and finally, deliberate destruction. In 1885, a desperate owner scuttled her off the coast of Haiti in an insurance scam. He failed. The ship ran aground, broken, half-sunken, and left to rot in the sun. A once proud vessel, now a skeleton of timbers. The curse had finally consumed her. But her story didn't die. Writers, sailors, explorers all became obsessed. Arthur Conan Doyle, before he created Sherlock Holmes, wrote a short story inspired by her. It spread across the world, turning fact into legend, and the Mary Celeste into a symbol of the sea's quiet cruelty. Today, her name still echoes through maritime history, a reminder that even in an age of science, some mysteries refuse to be solved. Imagine it. A still horizon, a ship drifting endlessly. Plates set on a table that no one will ever touch again. A child's toy lying beside an unmade bed. And somewhere, in the fog beyond, a lifeboat lost to time. The Mary Celeste never sank. She simply vanished into her own silence. A story too perfect for reality, and too tragic to forget. This was the Mary Celeste, the crew that vanished. If you believe some mysteries should never be fully answered, stay with us, because here, in Forgotten Shadows, every story is a whisper from the past.
And some whispers never stop.